let's get back to it.
Well, Boris Johnson certainly did sound Churchillian, no?
No.
Not really. Not really. You keep trying, Bodge. We will give them stuff to fight in the trenches. Poor! And we will never surrender any of that money that the friends of the Russian regime have given us to prop up our party. Poor! Yeah, you wait till Vladimir Zelensky finds out where Bodge gets all of his money. Did you tell him that, Bodge? I bet you didn't. Oh, good grief, this just gets worse. Oh, I should do the texts and emails and messages from last night. Oh, by the way, if you are considering driving into London tonight, don't even think about it. Trust me, throw your keys down a drain and walk away from your car. I've never seen anything so blocked in my life. For a journey that would normally take about 5 minutes took an hour. An hour. I don't know, there was some... What was the march in London today? Some...
Extinction Rebellion.
Oh, OK, some hippies. That's fine, Extinction Rebellion. And so what did the police do? I mean, there were a few people in the middle of town when I came in. A few, like they could have fitted onto the pavement. But what did the police do? Did they just let the cars go about their business? No, they didn't. Of course not. They closed every road in London for your convenience. Struth, Cressida Dick's left, right? It's actually got worse since she left. I wouldn't have thought that possible. Is there anybody running the police in London now?
No.
Or are they just running themselves, running around, clutching their heads thinking, oh, what should we do now? I don't know, close a road. Honestly, it's the worst I've ever seen it. I had to park about 3 miles away. Every single road going from here to wherever you want to go was shut. Do not even think about it. I wanted to kill somebody, but you're not allowed to kill somebody because of the European Human Rights Act. Some texts and emails from last night. Kate texts, but you know me, I never complain.
Stop whining.
Kate texts, what is Mrs. Sunak saving for? Is she a philanthropist? I don't know, do you? Can you tell us, says Kate. No, Kate, I don't. What I do know is that when the rich give what to them is 10 pence, they're called, to charity, they're called philanthropists. When we give a week's wage, it's just called, we're doing our bit. But they are philanthropists. Most philanthropists are just giving away money to whitewash their reputation that they would ordinarily have paid in tax. It's just that they managed to swerve that part. I'd like to be a philanthropist. I'd like to not pay any tax and then just give some of the money that I would have paid in tax to the charity of my choice. And get my name on a building, perhaps. Wouldn't that be nice? Oh, marvellous. Lucy texts, I wish people would just give Starmer credit for being an honest man who left his high-paid job to try and improve ordinary lives. It is what decent politicians were valued for once. Keir really does his best to have integrity. He is lying to our faces. Whoa, that took a turn at the end there. Do you mean that? Oh, probably not. He is not the person that you were just referring to there, Lucy. Perhaps. Maybe you mean his imperial bodgeness is lying to our faces.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
I expect that that's exactly what you meant. Martin texts, regarding Fish's wife's non-dom status, could you imagine if it was Diane Abbott's husband? Getting a bit of déjà vu, which is a filthy French phrase, a European phrase. That's not what we want. But I think I read those last night, but not this one. Or maybe I did. Sue says, just think what Rishi's wallpaper is like. Carrie must be sick with envy. I wonder how she could get her own bag. Oh, she's devising a way. Don't you worry about that. I'm pretty sure I read that last night too. I replied with something like, he papers his walls with 50s. Jack tweets, I believe everyone should have a choice if they want to pay tax or not, just like the rich have a choice. Correct, Amundo. Yes, if the rich have a choice, if they're doing us a favour by paying tax, and it's like, oh, all right then. It's a little bit. Now shut up and go away. Wouldn't that be great? If you just say, well, I paid some tax last year. I don't think I'm going to pay it this year. I've done my bit. But that's not for the little people, not leprechauns. Adam texts, the telephone was invented before the television, and we have 8K TVs and virtual reality devices now, yet we still have to refer to the phonetic alphabet when we make phone calls because the sound still isn't clear. What's taking so long? My thoughts exactly. Why do mobile phones, some of which cost over £1,000 for a phone, why can't you use them as a phone yet? Just asking. You can use them as a compass. You can use them as the world's most efficient map. But can you use them as a phone?
No.
Not yet. Archie texts, this was from yesterday. Yesterday was Cressida Dick's last day in post. Why aren't you celebrating? Well, the reason I'm not celebrating, Archie, is because it's actually the policing of London's got worse in her absence. It's hard to believe, but I don't know who's in charge now. But they need a damn good thrashing. Metaphorically speaking, of course. Honestly, there was not crowds in the centre of London such that you had to close the roads. And they didn't just close one road, they closed all of them. Every single one. I was sat in, and how ironic, Extinction Rebellion. Trying to save the planet, is sitting in the entirety of London, sitting in a traffic jam for an hour, saving the planet.
No,
it's the opposite of that. So I think I was running through, because I had so much time on my hands. And I was running through, why are they doing this? There's no reasonable explanation. They're not saving people's lives. I mean, there wasn't swamped with people, the centre of London, and yet they decided to close everything. You couldn't go anywhere. Apart from New Year's Eve, when it used to get absolutely berserk in the centre of town before they started ticketing the fireworks, I've never seen anything so bad in my life. And there was no reason for it. They closed the roads, but the roads weren't swamped with people. You think if there were millions of people all over the roads, then they'd have to close the roads to traffic because people might die. Now, I personally am prepared for a certain amount of death if it means me getting to where I'm going at the required time. But that's just me. I'm efficient-minded. But there was no reason to close the roads. So I thought, well, why are they doing this? Is it to make the public upset at the Extinction Rebellion people? I bet that's it. I bet the word had come from the top to make it as difficult as possible for everybody that wasn't on that march to get around London, just to make us hate them a little bit more. Or to start hating them if previously we had supported them. I betcha. Either that or it was just absolute, total and utter incompetence, the likes of which should not be allowed. So, anyway, if any time you want to come back, Cressida Dick, yesterday we said
bye-bye,
but we might say hello anytime soon if things go on the way they are. We had no idea how lucky we were.
I just want to tell you all how happy I am to be back in the studio, making a picture again.
Well, I'm happy to be back in the studio. I never thought I was going to make it. For a while there, I thought I'm just going to have to abandon the car here, right in the middle of the road. I just don't care anymore. And they'll tow it, and I'll go and pick it up from the pound later on. It would be worth, paying the extra. Paying the extra would be more financially, would be less financially painful than missing a show. But like I said, you know me, I never complain. Vince texts, my fear is that because the last pandemic went so well for the super rich, they have already got the scientists in Wuhan working on an even bigger and worse one. What, the mad bat disease? You wouldn't put it past them, would you, says Vince. No, I most certainly would not, Vince. I would expect it of them. It is remarkable. The super rich have done so fantastically well. And it's just incredible, really. I mean, the rest of us have suffered like we've never suffered before outside of wartime. And the super rich have got ever more stratospherically rich. I mean, Rishi Sunak's wife has put on 200 million quid on her wealth in a year. Oh, it's just the politics of envy. The useful idiots. Woodwork squeaks and out come the freaks. Rachel texts Dodo Harding following her success as track and trace chief. Applied to be the chief of NHS England. Fortunately for us, it was unsuccessful again. Well, maybe she'd like to apply to be head of the London Police. Traffic Division. What could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go worse? Pete texts, who's in charge of the karaoke at an illegal party? The head of ethics. We no longer need carry-on films. Armando Iannucci, you're out of a job. We don't need satire or comedy. We just need Boris Johnson and friends to become a reality TV sensation. The truth is really more messed up than fiction. It's more messed up than his hair. How many more of these have I got from last night? Oh, loads. I'm never going to get them. And there's more coming in from tonight. How do these people get my number? Simon says, how many taxpayers in 1 year would it take to pay for the wasted PPE? I don't know. Is this a joke? How many taxpayers in 1 year would it take to pay for the wasted PPE? He says, assuming it's an average taxpayer, I haven't got enough fingers to work it out. I don't get it. That's not funny, Simon. Very disappointed. Rob says, I'm off to France. I'm going to seek non-dom status and a bit of skiing. Well, I'd like to go to France. I mean, I'd like to go to Italy. The traffic's probably better in Rome than it is in London at the moment. Can you imagine that? And Italian drivers are famously out of their minds. I bet there's still people who are stuck in the same traffic jam that because I just started following cabs who were doing U-turns all over the place. I mean, they sat in traffic for a little while and they thought, right, that's it, I'm leaving. And I thought, well, they must know where they're going, so I'll follow them. And then it occurred to me after a while, well, I don't know where they're going. They might know where they're going, but it might not be where I'm going. But I just started randomly following cabs to see where it took me. I swear, every single police person in the entirety of London has got cones behind them, waving traffic in the opposite direction to that which they want to go. Why? Why are they doing that? The march was over ages ago. It's an ordinary Saturday night crowd out there. Why have you closed the whole of London? Other than to make the public more irate with the hippie protesters. Must be. There's no other logical explanation. It's not to protect lives. Come off it. And there was van after van after van after van. How many police does it take to close the centre of London? All of them. But I'm not complaining.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
Well, it's not saving the planet, is it? 90% of the cars in the traffic jams clogging up the centre of town would have parked and turned their engines off by now. Instead, they're just sitting there, thrumming away. Each one, like losing tiny portions of their mind with each passing second. Josh says, not one of this shower of a cabinet is at all worried about winning the next general election. They have smashed and they have grabbed and they do not give a damn about the wreckage they will leave in their wake. I'm not sure that that's true. Certainly not the first part, anyway. I do believe that they have smashed and they have grabbed and they don't give a damn about the wreckage. That bit seems absolutely true. But I bet they are worried about winning the next election, to the point that they seem to be fixing it. Or what's a more legal term for fixing? One moment, please. Oh, here we go. Yeah, they're very, very upset about the Liberals and the Labours. Labour and the Liberal Democrats, and this is going to come as a shock to you, that they actually might have finally, believe that it's true, got their act together. The Labour Party and the Liberal Democrats. Can you believe that?
No.
I know. Hard to believe. Labour and the Liberal Democrats have fuelled speculation about an informal non-aggression pact in next month's local elections. Non-aggression. I bet they on sight, they start punching each other to the ground and the Tory party will just step nimbly over them and win. That's what I bet. Data from nominations, which closed this week, reveal that the two opposition parties appear to be giving each other a free run against the Conservatives in many of their key target seats. Well, about bloomin' time. Across swathes of the Red Wall battleground in the Midlands and the North, the Liberal Democrats are fielding candidates only in a fraction of the seats up for grabs, leaving the field clear for Labour to take on the Tories. The situation is mirrored in the so-called Blue Wall in the south of England, where the Lib Dems are perceived as the biggest challengers to Conservative rule. It's a pincer movement. A senior Tory source said, "Pah!" They said the two parties appeared to be using next month's polls as a trial run for a possible electoral pact to the next general election. Well, about blooming time. A senior Tory said, if you look at the nomination data for certain parts of the country, it's quite clear that Labour and the Lib Dems are trying to give each other a clear run in areas where they think one of them has the best chance. It's totally cynical and denies the voters a proper choice. Oh, please. Like that's your main concern. It looks like a trial run for the next election and them laying the groundwork for some sort of coalition, says a senior Tory source. Pah! Totally cynical. I mean, how could he or she, sexist, say that without cracking up? They're being cynical. Okay, then. Labour and the Lib Dems deny collusion. Collusion? This is the Mail I'm reading this from. Collusion. But the Financial Times reported this year that the two parties have already begun to work on a non-aggression pact at the next general election, which is the spring of 2024. Boris Johnson's Deputy Chief of Staff, David Canzini, warned senior Tories last month that the May 5th elections will be very hard for the Conservatives, with a real risk that the voters will use the polls to punish the government over Partygate and the cost of living. I thought we'd been instructed to forget Partygate. Weren't we told that it was just the fluff of politics?
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
You've had your instructions. Stop thinking about it, people. Senior Tories are braced for a wipeout in London, and we're not talking about surfing. And they are concerned about potential losses in southern England, but they remain hopeful that they could hold ground in the Red Wall areas that put Johnson into number 10 in 2019. Hey, you Red Wall areas, are you feeling as though you've been had yet? How can they have the nerve? How can a senior Tory have the nerve to say that the Liberals and the Labour Party working together in order to beat the Tories are being cynical? The Conservative Party is the party that are trying their very best to introduce an ID law to vote. And they got the idea from the Republicans in America who are trying on the same thing. Now, the idea is the poorer you are, the less likely you will have a photo ID, less likely you will have a driving licence or a passport. The poorer and the younger, of course. Now, the younger you are, the most likely you are to not vote Conservative. So the calculation is that 3.5 million people will be taken out of the election, thereby swaying it for the Tories. Now, they're pretending that they're fixing a problem that actually doesn't exist. Voter fraud. There is no voter fraud in this country. I mean, you might be able to pick up one or two people that voted for somebody that wasn't themselves by accident. But like in America, they're pretending to fix a problem that doesn't exist. I think that is the very definition of cynical. I mean, the Cabinet's own research says that only half of those with no ID will apply for some to vote. So, I mean, that's like 1.75 million people that would not vote Conservative who've just been taken out of the next general election in one fell swoop with these photo ID laws. And they have the nerve to talk about cynical. And they want the Electoral Commission to follow the government's instructions, which is another thing they've got from the Republican Party. Anybody that has control or authority over the electoral cycle, or the elections in general, should be beholden, should take their instructions from the government of the day. How crooked does that sound? And ministers will decide what campaign activities are allowed a year before the election, and which other parties could be gagged from campaigning, like Greenpeace or the eco hippies that the police decided to blame for bringing London to a halt. So that sounds a little bit more cynical to me, just a tiny bit more cynical and dangerous and alarming and concerning and worrying and all those other words that end in ing. But I can't actually believe that the Liberals and the Labour Party have got their act together to the point that they might actually work together, for in their common interest. That does seem unlikely. Yes?
No.
Josh texts, not one of the... no, I've read that. That's what got me onto that last rant. Paul says, throwing £100,000 at your ex-public school is a slap in the face for the poor and the old who can't turn their heating on. What an out-of-touch chancellor. I am scared for our country. He threw £100,000 at his old public school. What do they need the money for? Like a flower arrangement? What? You are joking. He threw 100 grand at... He went to Winchester, didn't he? One of those places? What do they need the money for? I mean, that's just rubbing it in our faces. Hey, Red Wall people, are you feeling like you've been had yet? Just asking. James says, Meghan Markle. Oh, Meghan Markle. I expect all of this is her fault. Yeah, thanks a lot, Meghan. Boo! Meghan Markle must be thinking she married the wrong Brit. If she was Fishy's wife, she'd be able to get away with anything by the right-wing media now. She has been out of the press for a little while. I mean, there was a couple of stories about her and Hazza and Sparkles. They were going to the Invicta Games is it in the Netherlands? I think it's the Netherlands. And they were saying, it's absolutely disgraceful that they didn't show up for the Queen Mother's husband's remembrance service. But they're going to go and show up for this. And, of course, they can't really say too much that's bad about the Invicta Games, because Invictus Games. Because, of what it is. But they're trying. Don't you worry about that. You're not off the hook yet, Meghan. Still the wicked rich of the West. It's amazing how much they've taken against her, isn't it? I mean, in the absence of any other news on any given day, there's always some Meghan news to boo at. You're their go-to person if they're in want of a splash, Meghan. Tim tweets, Rishi Sunak was a Brexiteer, presumably because the EU were chasing tax avoidance and cracking down on non-dom statuses. Also, never forget that he's a Thatcherite who gave out billions against his will. That is, I think that is the sole reason why we have left the European Union. Because they're super rich in this country, and don't forget that that's what we do for a living. We hide the criminal earnings of the international super rich. They were freaking out because the European Union was trying to do something about that. And I believe that that's why we were persuaded to leave. Now, and the easiest way to do it was just to spot dinghies. We're being swamped. People with funny accents are coming over here to take your biscuits. And we thought, wow, we can't have that. It had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with maintaining the tax havens as they exist in this country. Unless you know otherwise, in which case you must correct me.
Listen to him. He knows everything.
0345 6060 973. West Midlands, Ranjit.
Hiya, mate, you okay?
Yes, super. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I remember just before the last general election, I spoke to you and I said Nigel Farage is in bed with Boris Johnson.
Oh, yeah. Please. You should give us some sort of warning before you say something like that.
Warning.
Oh, now I can't unthink that image. Oh.
I know. He's a nutcase, you know what I mean? Basically, I said to you, look, they're doing tactical voting, right, to keep Labour out. And you kind of agreed with me. And I said, look, listen, through your media channel, or sort of the words to this effect, get Nigel Farage to stand in Uxbridge then against Boris Johnson to prove that they're not, together in, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So,
in cahoots.
for you, in cahoot, yeah. for years, these kind of things has been happening everywhere.
I'd rather think of them as being in cahoots than being in bed because, you know...
Disgusting.
Awful.
I know. Yeah, but the thing is, you know, in the dark, you don't know who you're in bed with.
Yeah, I think I would. I think I actually would, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyway, you know...
There's no amount of darkness that would shroud this.
I'm a nutcase.
No. Yeah, yeah. And then Boris Johnson going, ooh, you just wonder what they're doing.
Okay, let's not get carried away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait.
It's about time, right? That these, like UKIP or whatever party Farage decides to, come and bring a new one in.
We've got a few idiots in our party.
Yes.
Yeah, he sucks up all the floating vote. Yeah. Now, it's about time Labour and the Liberals realise that while we're fighting each other, we're making way for Boris Johnson or the Conservatives.
Of course, because there's no other major right-wing party, but there are major left-wing parties, and they just split the vote between themselves, so the Tories can just step nimbly into power again.
Yeah, and I've been, I go to some meetings. I mean, I support Labour, so I'm a member of the Labour Party, and I'm in agreement with you that to get photo ID, this, that and the other, you've got to be in a job or whatever, and they are trying to copy the American version, right, where people can't go out to vote.
Right,
yeah?
and make it as difficult as possible. I bet the other thing they do before the next general election is to close a lot of polling centres, particularly in areas that would vote Labour. I mean, that's what the Republicans do in the States. Some people have to travel 100 miles to their local polling station. They have to stand in the sun for 4 hours. They even made it illegal to give people standing in the sun or the cold for hour after endless hour. They made it illegal to give for some stranger to give them water. Can you believe that?
I know, but the problem you've got, the majority of the people don't. Well, I don't say the majority. A lot of people don't bother voting, and them are the ones that are affected the most.
Yeah.
Right, because of these right-wing governments that are coming in. And if you have a look around the world, this kind of thing's happening. So your red wall people, yeah, who had the feel-good factor, yeah, of voting Tories. Okay.
For a while, yeah. That feel-good factor lasted for a couple of minutes tops.
Yeah, I'd like to take them for a drink, yeah? When they're drunk and they always tell the truth, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
They'll go, Ranji, they'll go, Ranji, you know what? I really hate that Boris Johnson, but you know what? Because of Corbyn, yeah, I had to vote this. And they still come out with some lame excuse.
It'll be a what about? What about this and what about that?
Yeah.
And exactly right, some lame excuse, yeah.
It's always going to be a lame excuse. But, the ones who are affected the most are the ones who are still cutting their nose to spite their face. And this is what I try to tell people. I say, listen, I mean, obviously, we're having a name like Ranji, yeah? Okay, I'm from Indian origin or Asian origin. Suddenly, some of my relatives or friends, they suddenly become slightly well off, right? And then they suddenly start going, oh, yes, I'm a Conservative now. And I say, you're the same Conservative, right, that Margaret Thatcher tried to throw out of this country, right? When you was poor, you had nothing, right? Suddenly you're becoming a coconut, yeah? And they take offence because I argued this point with them.
Wait a minute, back up. A coconut?
You're still brown on the outside, but you suddenly start feeling a bit, not being racist, but you're a Conservative,
well,
yeah?
It sounds a tiny little bit racist. A little bit, yeah. Quite a lot, as a matter of fact. Anyway, I get what you're saying. Thanks a lot, Ranjit. At least he said it, not me. I was just looking at the non-aggression pact in the last general election, and it's an interesting timeline. Let's see. The beginning of September, Nigel Farage offers Boris Johnson no-deal Brexit election pact. That was the beginning of September, and then Boris Johnson snubs Nigel Farage pact and vows Tories will fight every seat. Followed by election pact between Johnson and Farage edges closer. Followed by Boris Johnson offers Nigel Farage a last-minute election pact. Followed by Boris Johnson snubs Farage pact and vows to fight every seat. So they both tarried with having an election pact, but then decided, maybe we can win it on our own. And then this senior Tory that I was quoting some while ago has the nerve to criticise the Liberals and Labour for doing the exact same thing. Gary says, when we knew what we voted for with Brexit, we also knew we would take a big dip in the first few years. We are only 2 years in. Give it 5 years and we'll be thriving. You're funny, Gary. I mean, at least you gave me 6 exclamation marks there to show that you are serious. You know, like most serious people do. 6 exclamation marks. Like he's yelling at me. Rose texts, I think very often it's about self-image. A sense of status is more important even than income. If you vote Tory, you are allying yourself with the winners, the top people. Well, you know what? There may be something in that. I mean, the Conservative Party seems to be, like the Republicans, the winner-takes-all party. Now, the winners write the laws and the regulations to suit those who have already won. The problem with this is, if it's a train that you want to get on, unfortunately, it's already going too fast for you to get on it. You're vanishingly unlikely. You might throw yourself at the side of the train, hoping to cling on, but almost nobody will. Unless you were born rich, it's almost impossible for you to become rich. But people feel that by allying themselves with the party of the rich, that there is a possibility that they might, at some point in the future, become rich themselves. And then they'll be happy. Because they'll be, part of the... They'll put the party that is acting in their interests as a rich person, they'll put them in power. Because it doesn't work unless you get rich. That's the important part. But if as a poor person you vote for a party that seems to have the interests of the rich at heart, then, well, you really are sort of crossing your fingers and hoping for the best there, aren't you? Like buying a lottery ticket, I suppose. If you're not in it, you can't win it. That is true. Chris says, so if I buy bargain potatoes from Aldi and sprinkle mud over them and put them in a rustic wooden crate, can I resell them at my local farmer's market and make 100% profit? Absolutely. I believe that's how it's done. Let's have Narberth. Neil.
Hi, Nick. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Good. I was just thinking about your what you're talking about, the voting scenario. One of the things that no one ever talks about is the postal vote. The Tories haven't banned that yet because they know a lot of their probably supporters go out and do a postal vote. I mean, I've been doing postal vote for years now, and it's so easy.
Well, I'm sure that the older you are, the more likely it is that you will have a postal vote. No?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it since I was about 30.
But why? What for?
It's easier. When you get something through the post, you just tick a box, you send it back, it's done. Job done. You haven't got to go out and stand and with some, the great unwashed and...
Yeah, speaking of unwashed, Neil, were we just in the loo with you?
No, you were actually out. I'm actually in a barn with some sheep at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It did very much sound like a toilet flushing for a while there.
Sorry about that. No,
okay,
it's a metal trough.
Right. Well, that's not making me feel much better. So it's a metal trough, not a toilet. Okay.
No. For sheep to eat out of, nothing else.
Right. Gotcha.
But yeah, the postal vote thing, I think people should do that more. It's so easy, and it's you haven't got to worry about this voter ID business or anything like that.
Well, I kind of like I like the trip down to the voting place. Well, they're never very far away. It's just at the end of the street, and you get to just smile at the nice ladies behind the trestle table.
Oh, painful. No. Absolutely not. I'd rather spend my time with my sheep than people in the voting booth. Thank you very much.
How's that whole sheep farming thing going?
Well, I don't farm sheep. I rescue sheep. So I've got 30 sheep that are retired and their offspring and stuff like that, and they're just here now as rescues.
They're retired?
They're retired, yeah. So when we
From
bought
doing
the
what?
place, well, we bought a small holding in Wales about 6 years ago, and there was about 100 odd sheep on the land that was we're buying,
Yeah.
and we said to the farmer, well, got to get them off, but can we keep a few? Because there's lots of grass here, and we could do finding a way of keeping the grass down, and we're big into animal welfare and things.
Right.
I'm a vegan, sorry about that, but we got we adopted 12 sheep. Some of them were pregnant already.
Huh.
Big Rammer, who's the daddy of them all, is looking at me just now with his big curly horns.
So you don't ever sell any of them on for other people's dinner?
No.
Right.
No. They rule our lives. We spend all our lives just coming out here looking after our sheep and our ponies.
But isn't it likely that there's going to be, before long, thousands of them?
No, because we've the ones that have the girls basically aren't really most interested in that sort of thing anymore.
Oh, right.
And the boys we've had seem to.
Yeah,
so.
they just want a quiet life.
Absolutely.
Well, that sounds a delight.
It is. Rammer's a good boy. He was a beast when we first got him, but now he's a big curly-horned baby, and he just comes up to me now like a dog.
Well, when I retire, can I come and hang out in your field?
You're welcome anytime, Nick, honestly.
All right, thanks a lot, Neil. It's a date.
Are you trying to tell me that this is your act?
Jim says, I see Bodger has been to Ukraine today and made absolutely certain that if Vlad the Insaner decides to launch a military strike against a NATO country, it will definitely be us first. No, I wouldn't think so, Jim. I mean, the Conservative Party seems to be a wholly owned subsidiary of the Kremlin. They're not going to bomb that. It'd be like bombing their own bank. I mean, the Great Britain is less GB, more KGB. I think that Boris Johnson protests too much, by the way. They used to be so friendly. 0345 6060 973. Liverpool. Hello, Paul.
Hi.
Paul.
Yes, I'd just like to talk about the P&Os where the 800 staff are sacked. I was just wondering, why doesn't the government do a compulsory purchase on the business and take over it and run it from the government instead of letting these privatised companies use it?
Well, I don't know. Because this government is not really into privatisation. It's more into selling stuff. It's more like a smash and grab raid than a government.
Yeah, I understand that, but they're still got to help the people. The 800 people out of work. So if this happens where the ships are taken over, cheaper labour, it'll spread to the bigger companies.
Well, I think that's more the plan than an error.
What do you mean, a plan?
Well, I think that if I had to choose between the Conservative Party deciding to break things up and sell things off and make it easier for corporations to fire people and rehire them on worse contracts, or helping those very same people out by protecting their rights, then I would go with the former. I think that the Conservative Party is more like that's what they mean when they say we're going to get rid of all that red tape. It's the red tape that's protecting us that they're getting rid of. They're not doing us a favour, but they're selling it to us as though they are. But that's the thing that's holding you down. All of this red tape, we'll just get rid of that. And people say, yeah, great. Not understanding that it's only the red tape that is keeping them safe and in employment and having decent contracts and a fair wage. Yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath there, Paul, but thanks. 0345 6060 973. Kimmel Bay. Hello, Linda.
Oh, hi, Nick. Lovely to talk to you. I was thinking today, looking at the footage of Boris Johnson in Ukraine, I hope President Zelensky has been...
washes his hands afterwards?
Well, I hope he's actually been warned about Johnson being a bit of a security risk.
His Russian interests. Yeah, I wonder if that message has actually penetrated. Because, of course, Vladimir Zelensky's been a bit busy lately, so he might not have been keeping up with current affairs in this country. But I wonder if he's aware just how much Russian money is still jangling in Bodger's pockets.
Yeah, because if he's been informed of anything, any sensitive military plans or things going on in Ukraine, we don't want it getting into the wrong hands over here.
Oh, I see. Right. Well,
the Union brilliant.
You took what I said and turned it up to 11. Okay, so you think he's on the phone to Vlad?
Well, you don't know, do you, really? Because
Well-
he's loose tongues and all that kind of thing. And have you seen the footage where he's walking through the town? And at the very end, this woman gives him, Zelensky, and Johnson these pot cockerels to hold. So there's just so many,
What?
there's just so many comic captions, really. Yeah, at the very end, this
What,
woman's there.
live ones?
No, no, they're made of pots. These two.
Oh, right. Oh, I thought they were giving out like free birds,
No.
cockerels.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and there's
so
just-
it's like a china cockerel, like porcelain.
Yes, so they're like a pouring pot of some kind.
Yeah.
But you've got to see it. You've just really got to see it.
Well, I'll look it up on the World Wide Web.
It.
There's probably detailed files up there. All right, thanks for the information there, Linda. Cheers, my dear. Some woman came up to him and said,
Want to score some pot?
DC says, blimey, have you seen all those arch Remainers blocking the M20 with their lorries trying to make Brexit look bad? Yeah. How's Brexit going, by the way?
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah, quite. I mean, that's just... and it is interesting how the government and their client media have now dropped all mention of the B word. And they're really bending themselves into pretzel shapes, trying to find some way of explaining things without mentioning that it's about Brexit. You know, like the 500 to 1,000 people that the farming industry is in want of. Oh, that's got nothing to do with Brexit. Nothing to do with the fact that we yelled at foreigners for 5 years to get out of our country, and then they did. Very unpatriotic. Simon says, interesting that Mrs. Sunak is happy to pay millions in tax so that her husband can keep his 150 grand job. Makes you wonder why. Yes, it does, doesn't it? Curious. Well, I've got more detailed files about that because, like I said before the news, the longer you look at his affairs, the more complicated they get. Just like a Mandelbrot set. Have you ever seen one of those?
Groovy.
They are groovy. Is the absolute best word I can think of them. You can stare at them forever, and the further you go in, the more complicated it gets. But I don't have time to do this now, so I'll have to amuse myself by reading some more texts and emails. Paul tweets, any further developments regarding Fishy and the non-dom ding-dong? The non-dom ding-dong. There was a ding-dong about his non-domery. Yes, I do have more files. There are further developments, Paul. I'll leave you in anticipation. Christine texts, who else among our government is also of non-dom status or green card holders? I mean, that is absolutely incredible, isn't it? He was second in charge of this country, and he was busy trying to be an American citizen, because that's what holding a green card means. Well, at least that's what it means to Americans. When they give out a green card, it means that you are working your bottom off to try to become an American citizen. That you are working very, very hard to live there permanently while he was a member of this government. Is there anybody that's in government at the moment who is actually present where they're supposed to be? I mean, half of them seem to be working against the interests of the government, actually fighting the government that they are a part of, while on some tax haven island in the middle of nowhere, while pretending to be at work back here. And they're all off on their jolly holidays at the moment, of course, they've rewarded themselves for excellence in being them. Apart from a couple who are staging very, very public photo shoots at the moment, as a prelude, I would imagine, to skipping away. As soon as he throws off the clothes that he found in the dressing-up box, Bodger will be off, I betcha. And then we'll spend the next 6 months trying to find out whose villa it was that he stayed in and how much it didn't cost him. Rona texts, I dreamt of Eric Pickles last night. Can you imagine that? Was there any room for anybody else in your dream, Rona? She says, I dreamt of Eric Pickles last night. I blame you, as in me, for mentioning him before I went to sleep. It was horrendous. I woke up in a cold sweat, says Rona. Still, at least it wasn't smug. Well, at least you have that. Yeah, at least it wasn't a you-know-who.
The brilliant, the one and only, successful genius.
Yeah, that guy. At least it wasn't him. I had a really long dream about smug a couple of weekends ago, and you can hear all about it in excruciating, gruesome detail on the podcast that we do of these shows. The Friday and Saturday night shows get put as a podcast onto the internet. We take the news and the ads out, which means it takes less time to listen to. You'll use less electricity, and you still won't be able to pay your fuel bill. That's because of all the help that Rishi Sunak has given us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Fishy. Ask for it by name on an internet near you. It's called Nick Abbot, The Whole Show. It's the Friday and Saturday night shows. We squirt them up the internet. If you have Global Player, then you'll find it on that. And if you haven't, you should. Global Player is available for Android and Apple. And you can find it at your favourite app store. Global Player. It's got all the radio stations that we do. Too numerous for me to mention. Capital, Heart, Smooth, X, Capital Dance. Classic, so relaxing. That's my favourite. And a boatload others. It'll take me from now until the end of time to mention them all. And loads of podcasts, and I do mean loads of them. Global Player. Try it. You might like it. You can thank me later. No, wait. I've changed my mind. You can thank me now.
A big sack of monkey nuts.
A dentist on a horse. I don't know why that's funny. It just is. And I was out making coffee, so I only heard half the news. But when I came back in, there was some fella saying on the news, Boris Johnson was in no danger when he went to visit Vladimir Zelensky. Even Vladimir Putin's not crazy enough to bomb Boris Johnson. Well, no, I wouldn't think so. Boris Johnson is the Kremlin's most valuable employee. Why would he get rid of him? Of course, that doesn't rule out the possibility of accidents, does it? Roger texts, like you, I spent the whole afternoon inching through central London. Thanks, Extinction Rebellion. No, Roger. Thanks to the police. Because I wasn't there in the afternoon, I was there in the evening. There weren't no march in the evening. There were just people on the pavements. And yet the police had decided to close all of central London, by which I mean all of it. All of the bits that weren't closed ordinarily because of roadworks. I mean, they've closed Westminster Bridge for doing something or other. I don't know. It seems like 5 minutes since it was closed and they were doing something else. I don't know, prettifying the view for the MPs on the terrace, perhaps. I've got no idea. I bet they don't either. Why is it necessary to close the whole of London just because there was a blooming march? And the unpleasant conclusion that I reached was that the police were making it as difficult as possible for the rest of Londoners so that we disliked Extinction Rebellion more. I mean, you come up with a better reason. It didn't seem to be about health and safety, for crying out loud. There's people, I mean, ordinarily in London, there's people on the pavement and there's cars on the road. Why does, just because there was a march or some sort of meeting earlier on, mean that scenario no longer works? Madness. Absolutely crazy. And like I said before, the exact opposite of what Extinction Rebellion are trying to achieve, which is less pollution, not more. Let's have Lancashire. Annie.
Hey up, Nick. How you doing?
I am great, mate.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself the other week at Arley.
Oh, yeah. It was. It's a very nice house. Quite a nice garden. But I was there a bit early in the year because the flowers had not bloomed yet. It was a bit barren. But the food was lovely. Have you eaten there?
No, because I haven't been there for about 35 years, but I used to live down there. I used to go regularly, not to the house, but to the gardens, because in the summer, they are absolutely gorgeous.
Well, I plan on going back.
To die for, yeah. Well, you should get yourself up here if you like gardens. Cumbria is absolutely stuffed full of gorgeous gardens.
Is it?
Yes, definitely worth a few days' visit and go around the gardens.
Is Cumbria on the map?
Somewhere up the top, yes, of England.
Right.
Yeah, I've got a good book. It's called The Gardens of the Lake District, although I can't remember who it's by. I'll stick it on a postcard and write it to you.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've just noted that title down, and I'll look it up later.
It might be somebody like Tim Longville.
Oh, he is excellent. I
think that might be right, but I'm not sure.
Right.
It's full of gorgeous, big colour pictures of lovely gardens.
That sounds lovely.
It does, yes. Garden porn. It's just,
let's not get
can't take your eyes off it.
Okay.
No, but I get very excited over gardens. So,
here we go.
Yeah.
As though by magic, my glamorous assistants pulled it out of the air. Gardens of the Lake District from 2007 by Tim Longville.
Yes.
Val Corbett, photographer.
Yeah, gorgeous.
And there's
gorgeous
a picture of the front of it with the lake and the magnolia trees and some roses, and it just looks an absolute delight.
It is.
Right, it's on my list.
Yeah, best one to visit actually is called Holehird, Holehird.
Holehird.
Holehird. It's near Windermere, but it's about 4 or 5 miles out of Windermere.
Right. Does it ever stop raining?
Oh, yes, regularly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right-o.
In fact, I've never been there when it has been raining.
Huh.
Gorgeous garden. Anyway, I didn't ring you up. I rang you up about what you were saying earlier about Labour and the Lib Dems doing this pact, which I didn't know about, which I think is a really good idea.
Well, about blooming time.
Definitely about blooming time. And I also hope that people will, when they're thinking of voting, if they want to give the Tories a bloody nose and get them out, or just, out of the councils, to check, in their constituencies who are the neck to neck too, because it depends where you live. I would vote tactically, because where I am, we're under Morecambe and Lonsdale. I'm talking about for general elections now, not the local elections. So in a general election, it's a marginal seat, a really tight two-way marginal seat between the Tories and Labour, and it's always gone backwards and forwards between the two of them. So I would only ever vote Labour here, and because at the moment I think there's only about, the Tory MP's only got 2,500-ish majority. Which, would be quite easy to take off him, especially as last time, I think it was more that Labour voters didn't come out, more than that he got a lot
which
more
is
votes.
Absolutely unforgivable. I mean, the amount of people that I've talked to over the years who've said that, they never vote, like, at all. Never mind about I didn't bother voting at the last one because, they're all the same, or some nonsense like that. I mean, for crying out loud, people, if they just absolutely flat out refuse to make it the law that everybody votes, then you should just make it your business to vote. It doesn't take very long. When you go down there's no one there. You don't queue outside. It's not like America where you go drive 100 miles and then queue for 8 hours. It's not like that. It's easy.
It is easy, and, just vote for the least worst in your area.
Exactly.
I mean, because if I lived over the border, we live 4 miles from the border of Cumbria, and if I lived in Cumbria, I would definitely vote Lib Dem, because Labour don't have any chance there. In a general election I'm talking about. I'm not sure about the local elections there. I think it might be Lib Dem controlled for local elections too, but yeah, if I lived there, I would have to vote Lib Dem through gritted teeth, but I would to keep the Tories out.
But you have to vote. There's absolutely no excuse. You can't not vote. Just do it. Exactly like Annie just said. The least worst. Pick one. All right, thanks a lot, Annie. 0345 6060 973. Pat tweets, well, I must be missing something. Rishi Sunak is putting the chance in Chancellor. And now I hear his wife finds all sorts of legal loopholes to reduce her tax burden. I mean, she might be a philanthropist, but why should she pay less just by collecting stamps? A listener with material.
Oh, no.
Good one, Pat. I'll let that one go by. Yeah, I have detailed files on Fish's affairs. Even more excruciating detail than you had last night. Chris says, interesting how Johnson took himself off to Ukraine this weekend, just as the heat is building on Fishy Sunak regarding his wife's non-dom status. Johnson probably leaked this revelation in order to distract from Partygate. Yeah, that is interesting, yes. He just upped and went. I bet, actually, that's the last time that we see Johnson for at least a week. I bet he just disappears from view. Highly suspicious. Let's have Sandhurst. Oh, no, wait, I've done that wrong. One moment, please. There it is. Dennis.
Oh, hi, Nick. Hope you're keeping well.
Yes,
thanks for taking my call. I was just mulling over a few points that I think most people have missed. Most people, I think, are assuming that Rishi Sunak's wife is doing her tax through India. In fact,
no, I don't think that people are thinking that at all. I mean, I don't know, but I would imagine it's somewhere that has an almost invisible, if not 0% tax.
Yeah, I think you're right, because on that capital and that amount of profit, the income tax in India would be something like 67%.
Wow.
On just £500,000 alone. That's 50 million rupees, and there's roughly 98 rupees to a pound, so it's a penny to a rupee. Well, on 50 million rupees, which is quite high over there, it's 37% on top of the 30%, so that makes 67%.
Blimey, it's like talking to Zaphod the Beeblebrox.
86%, 5 million, and of course over 50%. And what I'm saying is, an additional 162 million.
And he just goes on and on and on, filling the air with noise and numbers.
Yeah, the only thing you conclude is that this money is actually in an offshore trust somewhere. Now, I think my point is that...
Well, it's guessing, but I would.
Yeah, we're guessing.
We're
assuming. We'll see if the truth comes out. And if that's the case, then there must be other trustees. And if one of the trustees is Rishi himself, then Rishi's being very fishy. And his position must surely be untenable if it's found out that he's...
Yeah, I don't think anybody in the regime is of a resigning bent. I don't think that's who they are. They'll just tough it out and expect that we will get bored and then they'll move on.
Yeah, if this is true, they're not going to close any loopholes for tax havens, are they?
Of course not.
No, I mean, it's pretty evident.
Well, I firmly believe that that's why we were persuaded to leave the European Union, because because the EU was bent towards closing loopholes that tax avoiders use, and we couldn't have that, could we?
No. Well, I got a 7 pence. I got a letter for 7 pence tax with a first-class stamp on it. So it shows their priorities, doesn't it?
That's excellent, Dennis. Good news. Thanks a lot, mate.
Thanks a lot, mate.
Cheers. Ta-da.
Bye-bye.
Okay, here's that news. Fish's wife has previously collected other shareholder income. You know, she made like 11.5 million quid in annual dividends last year, something like that. 11.5 million pounds. She has apparently previously collected other shareholder income via the tax haven of Mauritius, which does not tax dividends. Wow. Sounds like heaven on earth. No?
No.
No. Heaven on earth for money? Still, what about Labour, eh? Well, what about Jeremy Corbyn? How about Hillary's emails? Go on, I double dare you.
Hello, boys.
Billy texts, by the way, Cressida Dick's last day is actually tomorrow, Sunday. Oh, right. Well, so it was Cressida Dick's fault that all of the roads in London were completely blocked up because of a march did happen at some point earlier on in the day. I have honestly never seen so many roads in central London blocked. Not for anything. Not even for, like, New Year's Eve. It's absolutely ludicrous out there. I bet there's still people screaming at their windscreen now, stuck in traffic. So Cressida Dick's last day is tomorrow. Well, hand in your epaulets.
Bye-bye.
But don't leave in a car, Because if you've seen what the roads are like, better leave on foot, Cressida Dick. Martin tweets, it would be a shame to have that new Mercedes impounded. Yeah, I haven't got a new Mercedes. Don't believe a single word that Steve Allen says about my automobile arrangements or anything else for that matter. He is not telling you the truth. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Sometimes it takes a while to find. Kath says, what do you think of the Grand National? Apparently it was won by a dentist. No wonder you can't get an appointment on the NHS. I don't know what to make of it. If a horse breaks its leg, it's put down. Maybe it'd be more humane if the jockey was put down too. Good idea, Kath. Let's put the jockey down. Why not? Give it a go. That'll teach them. Coventry, Fred.
Hello, sir.
Fred.
It's just dawned on me that all this business about Rishi Sunak's wife paying all her taxes in the UK doesn't apply because all her money from India goes to that offshore account.
Well, we don't know that that's true, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
Yeah, in which case it's all a load of twaddle.
Twaddle. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thanks a lot, Fred. Twaddle alert. Kath said... Oh, no, I read that. John says, all in capital letters. Oh, no, it's all in capital letters. Uh-oh.
Warning, warning.
John says, Tories, spelt wrong. Tories have no shame. Austerity for the poor and tax cuts for the rich. Yeah, well, that sounds like their manifesto. It's what people voted for, apparently. Is this mouse loud enough, by the way? Steve texts, if you're daft enough to drive a car in London, you deserve to get stuck in a traffic jam. I'm sick of whinging car drivers. Wow. How else am I going to get in, Steve? More to the point, how else am I going to get out? Ain't no public transport to take me home at night. What do you want me to walk? Can't do it. Too far to cycle. Got to drive. Got to. I mean, unless you live in the centre of town, you got to have a car. Because how would you get anywhere? Colin texts, thought you might like to know that our local travelling circus is looking for 3 new clowns and 1 new juggler. Can you possibly think of anyone from your favourite party that fits the bill? If so, I will pick up the application forms when I pass the tent tomorrow. Any idea, Bodge?
Yeah. Wait a minute.
He's in. Wiz tweets, Bodger in Kyiv today. We could have laid money on it yesterday. He couldn't allow Ursula to upstage him. Yeah, that's right. Ursula von der Leyen. He wasn't going to allow Ursula to get in there. Well, she did get in there first. Bodger was a panting second. Running along in her wake. Arms and legs akimbo. Alan says, just how long do Extinction Rebellion plan to rebel for this time? Well, what's quite interesting is that all those people that glued their faces to the M25, they were all calling for the insulation of old buildings. Apparently we have the worst insulated housing stock in Europe, which just sounds like totally us, doesn't it? They were thrown up for threepence halfpenny, the worst buildings that a developer could possibly get away with, and then the government of the day, the Conservatives, gave us a bung to make it seem less like a rip-off, essentially doing their mates in the construction industry a favour. A massive, huge favour with our money. And so it didn't seem like these awfully made, terrible houses, these cheap little, tiny little rabbit huts with mean little windows, and they're drafty and cold and damp and all the rest of it. It didn't seem like it was such a rip-off because the government gave you, like a bung of your own money. In other countries, they make proper houses for, like actual real human beings. I mean, those flats, those endless towers of executive flatlets that are throwing up and ruining London's skyline, and probably where you live too. Who are they for, exactly? They're not for people to live in, because there's no cupboards. There's nowhere to put your stuff, apart from anything else. You've got to buy another flat just to put your stuff in. So they're building them for developers. They're not building them to live in. But anyway, the Extinction Rebellion people, they were saying that all of our old housing stock is ruining the planet, which it is, and, of course, this war in Ukraine has concentrated minds, and all of the other economic privations that we are now being visited upon us, that's concentrating our minds as well, and we all want to reduce our fuel bills, and that's precisely what the Extinction Rebellion people were saying. And the government wanted to put them all in jail. They wanted to send them to Rwanda and put them in jail. And now, of course, the very same people that were decrying Extinction Rebellion are saying, hey, you know what? We should insulate all our old homes. Why hasn't anybody thought of that? Bart tweets, I agree with you that voter fraud does not exist. However, the UK has a major identity management issue. What does that mean? The UK, what does that mean?
Dunno.
No, we don't know. But thanks for getting in touch there, Bart. We got no idea what you're talking about. Rob texts, how far am I behind, by the way? Let me just check ahead just to see, how much reading I've got to do. Oh, my God, it's pages, pages and pages and pages. That's the thing these days. Nobody uses the phone anymore, do they? Apart from to type. I must have said this 1,000 times. If you'd told people 30 years ago that kids' number one favourite pastime in the future would be typing, people have thought you'd gone insane. But here we are. Another case in point. Rob says, as I recall it, it was a Conservative Party manifesto pledge in 2010 and 2015 elections to get rid of the non-dom status loophole. Was it? That doesn't sound like the Conservative Party. Britain is, after all, the only country persisting with such a loophole. It seems that since Sunak became a person with influence in the Treasury, he quietly forgot about the plan to get rid of non-dom status loopholes. Is this coincidence that it directly affects the Sunaks by many, many millions of pounds, says Rob? Well, I don't know. You might think that it does, Rob. I couldn't possibly comment. Sarah says, for Harry and Meghan to get to Holland, they'll have to fly over their granny. Give her a wave at least. Uh-huh. Probably not. Fly over her granny. Their granny. Can planes fly over Windsor Castle? I bet they can't. Jane texts, Fishy always said he was a low-tax chancellor. Who knew he was talking about his family, says Jane. I screwed that up a little bit there, Jane. Never mind. Better luck next time. Shall I read it again?
No.
Fishy always said he was a low-tax chancellor. Who knew he was talking about his family? There you go. Second time's a winner. Karen texts, Sparkles was in the news this week for saying she is trying to copyright the word archetype. Well, it was archetype, right? Not archetype. Isn't that the whole point of her copywriting it? Archetype. Now that's crazy, says Karen. Well, I don't know. Well, I mean, Boots is copyrighted, isn't it? I mean, you can't open a shop that's called Boots. Even if you're selling boots, you can't do that, can you? Probably not. You can't open a restaurant called McDonald's, even if your name is McDonald. So it's not completely insane, but that's the way the press made it sound. Yeah, of course, because, everything she does is awful. Boo, Meghan Sparkles. Boo! Sue texts, you are the first presenter to nail the Brexit argument 6 years on, because the EU were about to clamp down on tax evasion by the super rich. Bingo. So the super rich who run this country had to come up with some way to persuade people that weren't remotely this sort of non-dom tax loophole thing wasn't ever going to affect, because they just don't have that much money. So they had to be brought on side somehow. How are you going to do it? They must have had focus groups. How are we going to do it? What will trigger them the most? Oh, I know. People with funny accents. Dinghy spotting. and we'll get you-know-who to stand in front of a poster of a mile-long people who are going to come over here and take your biscuits.
I'm a nutcase.
Yeah, and it worked. No problemo. It worked to such an extent that people, even now, are still saying that they knew what they were voting for and they got what they wanted. As they, try to find some crumbs of food that have fallen down the back of their sofa.
I am not one of your fans!
Pauline texts, I was a poor child. I am now a rich pensioner. I have always been a lefty. Don't pigeonhole us all. I am not sticking you in a pigeonhole, Pauline. I certainly would do nothing of the sort. And that does not disprove, your individual instance does not disprove a generalisation. That's what I'm doing. I'm making a generalisation. The older you are, the more likely you are to vote Conservative. That's just true. I'll say it again. I'll say it again for about the 1,000th time.
Oh, no.
If you take away the pensioner vote from the last general election and the EU referendum, we would still be in the European Union and Jeremy Corbyn would be our Prime Minister, if you take away the pensioner vote. But thanks for going against the tide there, Pauline. Martin texts, this country has become a skipfire ever since David Bowie died.
Rock and roll!
Yes, that's right. Can you beg him to come back, says Martin. Yeah, thanks a lot, David Bowie. You couldn't have just hung on for, say, 5-10 more years? Look at the state you've left us in. I think that's, it's inconsiderate, is what it is. Bodmin. Hello, Malcolm.
Oh, Nick, how you doing, mate?
Yes, good, thanks.
Nick, I'm listening to you and I'm watching the press previews on BBC News and Sky.
Oh, yeah.
And they're showing the front pages and there's not a mention of Rishi Sunak anywhere.
Really?
It's all Boris.
Oh,
it's all
God.
Boris in Kiev. Do you think Boris went there to take the spotlight off Rishi Sunak? Any chance? What do you think?
Well, I'm not sure that Bodger actually has Fishy Sunak's best interests at heart. If he's doing a distraction routine, which I wouldn't doubt for a second, then it's to take our eye off his various travails.
Yeah, I think you're right. But seriously, though, there's barely a mention in the papers tomorrow of Rishi Sunak's travails.
Well, what other stories have they got?
It's all Kiev and Bodger.
There must be some other
Everywhere.
stories, surely.
No, that's it. I mean,
is it
you know,
really
there
Boris Johnson saves the world? Really?
Boris Johnson with the chickens. Boris Johnson. Yeah, that's it.
I must see that picture. I want to see a picture of Boris Johnson holding a chicken.
He looked receiving it. He looks quite startled, but then again, so does Volodymyr. This lady walks up to them with these two chickens and just hands them over.
Yeah, well, Vladimir Zelensky must have been somewhat surprised when Boris Johnson hoved into view. He must have thought, "Who's this tramp?"
Did you see it? Well, the video. If you watch the video, Boris gets a very long run up before he gets to Volodymyr. He walks about 15 metres to get to him, all on camera.
Right. He's sort of.
So fair play. He's gone there. He was well received, and you know, it's a positive thing, I think, his visit.
Right. Well, okay then. Just wait till Vladimir Zelensky finds out how many rubles Boris Johnson's got carrying in those pockets in his jacket. I see the picture now. There he is with his chicken. It looks like he's broken it. Vladimir Zelensky, he's got a chicken, and Boris Johnson's got a chicken. It looks like Boris's broken his.
Well, Boris asks the lady who presents him, what is it for? Is it for water or wine?
Yeah.
And the lady, obviously, there was a bit of a language thing there. She didn't quite get it, but she picked him up somewhere in Poland, and it just happened to be on the street, I think, and she presented them.
Right. Well,
very good. Yeah.
Yeah. If I was a political leader and I was out of the blue given something on the streets near Russia, I don't think I'd touch it with a barge pole.
You would have X-rayed, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All right, thanks a lot, Malcolm. 0345 6060 973. Dave tweets, I would prefer it if the booths at polling stations had curtains around them. I like to... No. Well, I guess it's not that rude. He says, I like to do... Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to read that. They used to have curtains. It looked like the worst made piece of furniture that you've ever seen in your life. Just some bit of old flotsam that had been nailed together by somebody who'd never seen a hammer before. And they used to have a nylon curtain that you could pull across behind you. Why? Why? You're only putting a cross on a piece of paper. It's not a test. James says, how many refugees did Bozo bring back with him when he went to Ukraine to cash in on another photo opportunity? Yeah, well, it's interesting that there was 3 or more stories about refugees in the Mail today, and they were all as though this had come from a Tory central office, some way to excuse their miserable performance in this regard. It's not their fault, it's somebody else's fault. And there were 3 reasons, top 10 reasons, why it's not the government's fault that so few refugees have been accepted in from Ukraine. It had nothing to do with them, nothing to do with their, their inbred enmity towards anybody that speaks with a foreign accent, because that's what they think their fans want, for us to push them back out to sea, let them drown. That's their chief selling point at the next general election, a lack of foreigners. So it's got nothing to do with that. They're trying their very best. Ukrainians are being forced into homelessness as relationships with UK sponsors break down, and some female refugees seek new homes after being targeted for sex by their British hosts. Right, so that's why there's so few. I think they found one person that may apply to. One young woman was subjected to advances from a male host, and they managed to fashion an entire story around that. So that was reason number 1 why we have accepted an almost invisibly small number of Ukrainian refugees into this country, and why we're doing our very best, well, our government on our behalf is doing their very best to make it appear as though they're doing something without, actually doing something. And then there was this story. Ukrainian families fleeing war-ravaged cities have been denied sanctuary in Britain because of overzealous council inspectors. Oh, it's not the government, it's the council that's at fault. Local authorities checking homes of those wanting to host refugees have been accused of being like something out of Monty Python. An investigation found that some homes have been rejected as unsafe because of stairs designed without a banister, which I think is against planning regulations, isn't it? I don't think you can have a stair without a banister in this country. So it is, by definition, unsafe. And a 1-inch step deemed a trip hazard. OK, well, I've got no idea, but they probably worked overtime to find the silliest reason that a council, brought up in order to say, don't blame the government. The government's trying its very best. You know Priti Patel, don't you? No! Yes, that's her. She's all heart. And then the third reason that they've come up with why it's not the government's fault is a Ukrainian mother and her 2 children trying to flee the war were prevented from flying to the UK after a Home Office official questioned the spelling of one of their names. And right enough, there are a lot of vowels in her name, but it's not really enough to say, no, you can't come in. So they really are peddling furiously in order to whitewash their reputation. How's it going so far?
Oh, fabulous.
James, no, read that. Sally says, I'm with you, Nick. People tell me to get a postal vote all the time, but although I'm 70 and disabled, I'm not ready to give up that little frisson I get when I place my vote. I don't know why, but I'd crawl through 3 feet of snow to do it and come out with a daft, smug look on my face. I just enjoy the experience. Because, you don't get to do it very often. And you go in, there's nobody ever there. And they, these eager, usually ladies, behind a trestle table, and they're just thrilled to see someone. It's like they've been there since 7 o'clock in the morning and they haven't seen a single person yet. And I come round the corner and it's like, oh, finally. And I take it very, very seriously. You take the piece of paper and you look at this massive long list and you think, oh no, I forgot to actually find out which person I'm supposed to be voting for. I forgot to do my research. And you go through the whole thing and think, monster raving loony, is there a point? Like a protest vote? A greenie?
Yowza.
Maybe a greenie this time? Give it a lot of thought while I'm in the booth. And you should too. Absolutely no excuse. Not now, not ever, never. But I bet there's about 50... I bet the next general election, there'll be about 50% of the people that just can't be bothered. Oh, it's just like so boring. I don't want to. You know, it's like windy out. They're all the same. Nothing ever changes. You know, those people. David tweets, no one seems to be asking this question. His wife is an Indian national loyal to the Indian government. She lives in number 11 and has possible access to state secrets, let alone kitchen table talk. Obviously a security risk. Hello, MI5. Hello, he says.
Hello.
Hello, says David. Yeah, well, I don't know anything about that. Don't ask me. What do I know? Richard texts, you see Bodger got presented with a China chicken teapot in the streets of Kyiv today from a grateful citizen. What was all that about? That's a good question, Richard. What was all that about? That's going to be the topic from now till the end of time. What was that all about, Bodge? He has no idea.
Hello? Number please. Trying to connect you. Sorry to keep you waiting.
Yes, I'm trying to connect a caller in Liverpool called Vincent. Vincent.
Hello, Miss. How are you, mate?
I am super. Thanks for asking.
You're okay. The sort of answer and his missus, the amount of money they've got, they shouldn't be able to make a decision in the world, should they, realistically?
It's very hard to hear what you're saying. Again, we're having phone problems.
Sorry, Nick. Can you hear me now?
A little bit.
I was just saying, Sunak and his missus, they shouldn't be allowed to make decisions ever.
What, on anything?
Should they, realistically, when you think about it, if she's going to pay some tax, my national insurance will go up, won't it?
Well, I don't know that the one is necessarily connected with the other. But if I'm going to drop that there, Vincent. Terrible, terrible phone, bad reception. You need to hang out the window the next time you make a phone call and thank me later. But always make sure that you're safe when you're doing it. But the thing with the tax avoidance by the super rich is that we, poor dopes who can't afford to pay tax, have to make up the difference. This is why it just blows my mind that so many poor people will defend to the hilt the right of the super rich to avoid paying the tax that they have to. The consequence of them not paying what a reasonable person in the street might call their fair share is that we have to make up the difference. But people seem to be perfectly okay with that. And they will call it, oh, it's the politics of envy. I had that last night, really early on in the show. And I made a thing about it, so I didn't get it again. But I bet there's a significant number of people who are thinking that just now. Oh, you're just envious. It's not that. It's disapproval is what it is. Because all of the tax they don't pay, we either have to just put up with less from government and councils, the less improvement in our lives. It's less money to fix the potholes in the roads, less money for the NHS, less money for the police, the fire service, the security service, the military, absolutely everything that we rely on. There's less money for that unless we pick up the difference. I mean, there's no other way around it, is there? Money doesn't just magic itself out of thin air. I mean, I know that technically it actually does. All the Bank of England has to do is to just press a button, and there it is. Poof, as though by magic. But all of the tax that they avoid, the international super rich, we poor dopes who have the tax taken from our pay before we get it, We have to make that up or suffer the consequences. But, you know, the international super rich, they're not going to rely on the NHS. Rishi Sunak and his wife, or anybody that they have ever met, is not going to be queuing for an appointment at the NHS, are they? Ever. Not now, not ever, never. So what do they care? They're probably not going to be using the police. I mean, apart from the 24-hour armed guard that follows them everywhere they go, paid for by us. All of this stuff needs paying for. And one of the reasons that we are such, so in want of these various services, that they've been run down so much, is because there's too little money being spent on them. And where does the money come from? It's us poor dopes who pay taxes, and we've got to make up the difference if those above us on the ladder refuse to do their bit. And it seems that the richer people are, the more they furiously attempt to avoid losing a penny of it. It's weird, that. I mean, I guess I don't understand because I'm not a billionaire. But if I was, I don't think I'd be so obsessed with not losing any of it. You know, an amount of money in the bank that you would need 10 lifetimes to get through. Why are they so desperate to cling on to all of it? I don't get it. Anyway, in an unrelated story, Rishi Sunak's wife, Akshata Murthy, bowed to pressure to pay UK taxes. With the Sunak's position under increasing threat, Murthy said she realised that many people felt her tax arrangements were not compatible with her husband's job as Chancellor, adding that she appreciated the British sense of fairness. And I think we can all relate to that, because who hasn't decided to pay taxes that are due on what they earn in this country on the basis that avoiding them isn't compatible with their other half's job? Oh, that's right, we don't get to choose whether we pay taxes. Taxes are taken from our wage before we even get it. There is no choice. And that is because we were stupid enough not to have been born to a billionaire. We only have ourselves to blame. Mrs. Fishy will pay tax on all worldwide income in future and for the last tax year, but not on backdated income, which could have saved her an estimated £20 million of UK tax on foreign earnings from her billionaire father's Indian IT company. So she's paying some tax, hypothetically, assuming that there are any earnings that are subject to tax in the future, but not on the actual money that she has come into in the past. Well, I certainly hope that there won't be any massive reduction in her income that might be subject to tax in the future, because that would be unexpected. So she's gracefully elected to pay what a normal person in the street would think of as being potentially aligned to what could be called her fair share. And that's an end to it, isn't it?
No.
No, you bet your life it's not. I wonder whether the rush to get us out of the European Union at all costs was in any way related to the Conservative Party's fervent desire to avoid any EU clampdown on non-dom status and tax avoidance and the regulatory havens of impenetrable darkness that are the British Overseas Territories. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that, Smug?
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
He doesn't know anything. He's claiming ignorance. I believe him. Well, ordinarily. But on this particular issue, I'm not so sure. Meanwhile, it appears as though the captain of our ship, the SS Britannia, wasn't even on board for a lot of the time that he was supposed to be our skipper. Fishy was forced to confirm that he had a US green card, meaning that he had declared himself a permanent US resident for tax purposes for 19 months while he was Chancellor, and for 6 years as an MP. What? 6 years. I mean, that's worse than working on an island tax haven against the interests of the government that you're supposed to be representing while voting on Parliament business by remote control. And that was perfectly legal as well, while earning £4 million doing it. It's almost as though the law is one of those fairground height signs that said you must be at least this rich to go on this ride. A source close to the couple also confirmed that his wife held the green card as well. Wow. I mean, the super rich, they don't appear to exist, except as golden auras of loveliness, and are just as hard to nail down. Holders of green cards, by the way, they're required to make a legal commitment to make the US their permanent home. And they held them while Rishi Sunak was an MP for, did I say 6 years? Something like that. 19 months while he was our Chancellor. The disclosure that they both had US green cards appears at odds with Sunak's defence of his wife being a non-dom. He said she intended to one day return to live in India. Maybe he misspoke. Maybe he meant Indiana. But it's worse than that, because just as Captain Fishy was hiking the taxes for us little people, not leprechauns, hiking it up to record levels to make up the gap in our finances that were caused by this government, the Treasury last week brought in a new low-tax scheme designed to benefit wealthy non-dom investors.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah. Did you know about that? The new laws specifically mention fund manager non-doms as a category of people who can benefit by not having to pay tax on foreign earnings through the new vehicles. What an incredible coincidence. I wonder if there's anyone in the regime that knows someone like that. A donor, perhaps. Or a close personal friend, maybe. Any thoughts, Bodger?
Yeah. Wait a minute.
He's thinking about it. Meanwhile, Bodge is on manoeuvres because, he can only say Sue Gray so many times to deflect questions about his incessant partying while his citizens were dying. And in a press conference on Friday, Bodger admitted that he had not been told about Murty's non-dom status. But he denied anyone at Number 10 was briefing against the Sunaks. He praised the Chancellor for doing an outstanding job, which in political speak means that he's probably out in the next reshuffle. Unless he's got the keys to the skeleton cupboard, in which case he'll be in the House of Lords instead, literally lording it over us for life. That's how it works, isn't it, Gavin? I believe it is. Downing Street insiders revealed that an away day last week descended into acrimony between Number 10 and Number 11 aides over the source of the Murty leak and long-standing tensions over the Partygate scandal. Acrimony between aides. Can these people hear themselves? My people are very cross with your people. I'm going to have to send them a memo.
Oh, no.
Tory MPs believed it was possible that Bodger could seek to move Fishy from the Treasury in a summer or autumn reshuffle if he survives the current crisis threatening his chancellorship. And if Boris Johnson survives that long, he will have about as much authority to sack anyone as the Downing Street cat. God, what a shower. And it just goes on and on and on. No wonder Bodger skipped the country.
What we got here is a failure to communicate.
Yeah, it's a living. 0345 6060 973. Chris texts. No, I haven't read this one. He says, Bodger's trip to Kyiv was great PR for the government, but I don't think it was as risky as they portray. Our Secret Service has a word with the Russians. Bodger gets to visit, and no one starts World War III. It's less smoke and mirrors, more steam and windows. Steam and windows. I wouldn't be remotely surprised if calls had gone in to Vlad. I mean, Bodger's probably got them on speed dial. And to say, we're going to be over here for a while, so, best not bomb where we're going to be going. Otherwise, it'd be very, very embarrassing. We might not be able to talk our way out of that one. Les text, I think the Beckham child wanted a wedding just like Meghan. Oh, Struth, if I see one more story about the Beckham family, I think I'm going to vom. That's not an offensive thing to say, is it?
No.
No, it's reasonable. It's just reasonable. St Ives. Hello, Brenda.
Hello, Nick.
Brenda.
Hi. Did I hear you just say that they've brought in a new rule to lower the taxes for these non-dom elites?
Yes, they do. Yes, they did. Mm-hmm.
When did they do that?
One moment, please. I think it just happened.
What exactly?
just now.
Oh, this is excruciating, Nick. This is... I feel physically sick.
Right.
And the other thing, I wanted to ask, why isn't it that the Labour and Greens and the Lib Dems can't force the government to bring in this windfall tax on the energy companies?
Because, Brenda, people in the north, the red wall seats, they gave the Tories a stonking majority, and now they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, but if the three parties got together, surely they would have a majority, because they're all in favour. Certainly the Lib Dems and the Labour Party are of this windfall tax.
Well, there wouldn't be a majority because the Tories have the majority. So, like I said, they are now our rulers, quite potentially forever.
Well, why couldn't it even be tried? I mean, I just can't believe Labour. We're just not going anywhere. The only MP, well, the three Labour MPs are Jeff Phillips, Angela Rayner, and Zara Sultana of Coventry. She's absolutely brilliant. And so that's that. But I think they should send the bailiffs round to Rishi Sunak and sort that out.
Right.
And also, I would suggest that everybody claims back money from these energy companies, which I am doing. There's a way of doing it.
How do you mean? Wait, back up. You claim money back? How? What do you mean? Claim it back for what?
For the payments I've made for my energy under an indemnity clause. I know several people have done it, and I'm doing it. And
What's an indemnity clause?
It's all about the fact that we've never signed a contract, and if we haven't got a contract, we have no obligation to pay that to pay that, and I've claimed back several months from my energy company.
Are you saying that you didn't sign a contract because you were given your new energy company because your last one went bust? Is that what you mean?
No, I didn't sign a contract ever. I contacted my company, never signed a contract. They told me the tariff, and instantly set up my direct debit, which has changed over the last year 4 times.
Yeah.
The amount.
No doubt.
So I'm claiming that money back on that premise that I was never told that there's no contract to say that they would do that.
Right, but when you say you're claiming it back, do you mean to say that you've done it successfully, or this is a plan for the future?
I know of 3 people that have done it successfully.
Right.
Mine's going in the post next week.
Well, I wish you the best of luck, Brenda.
Well, it works. It works.
Well, I'm not expecting it to, but...
Well, I can assure you, there's somebody that I know that goes around the country doing presentations with this, and she's actually claimed back a total of £1 million.
Wow.
For several hundred people on council tax, energy bills, and water bills.
Well, that sounds like a sensational idea there, Brenda. Promise me you'll tell me how it went.
I will.
All right, okay.
I will.
Good to talk to you. Thanks a lot, Brenda. There you are, you see. I would bet the money that Brenda is going to ask for back that it doesn't work. But, if you don't try, you don't get. No, that's the Beckham child. Laura texts, every time I see a coat stand, I now think of Smug. Yes. He's like a ghost, to me, a ghostly hat stand.
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
That's what he looks like to me, a ghostly hat stand. Pete tweets, having a green card means you're a legal resident of the US and the card is good for 10 years. Green cards might or might not be renewed at the end of that 10 years. Does it mean you're a citizen? A legal resident, right, perhaps. Or you make it your best effort to become a resident, I think, something like that. I can't remember what the exact wordage is. And furthermore, I don't care. Arjun says, I'm used to listening to you on catch-up on 1.5 times speed, so listening to you live makes it seem like you're very slow. Huh. Well, that doesn't sound like... Why would you do that? I mean, I know you would get through it more quickly, but can you not just listen to less of it at the right speed? That would seem like it would, ruin it to me. at 1.5 times speed. Plus, I would sound like Pinky or Perky. Which do I sound like, Arjun? Pinky or Perky? He's thinking. Let's have Broadstairs. Phil.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm going to speak a bit faster so that I can get through more of it. So I hope that's all right with you.
Well, think of Arjun, by the way, because he's listening to us at 1.5 times speed. So you're going to sound like you're being played at 78.
Oh, gosh. Well, all right, I'll slow down. The Grand National's over. Anyway, when I was a student, it was neither Washington nor Moscow, Nick. And I'm very concerned that there are two agents now in the cabinet. One is working for the Russians and one is clearly working for the Americans. And I think they should have, forsworn these choices when they got into office, because it's clear that if Rishi Sunak had this green card, he had it up to, I think, 19 months after he was made Chancellor, then he was negotiating a trade deal while declaring secretly his taxes in America.
Well, we don't actually know that he did that. I mean, we don't know for sure.
Well, if you read Dan Hodges, who I don't read very often, but I did on this occasion, he seems to think that's the big one coming down the track.
Well, it occurred to me that if you are in possession of a green card, then you have to pay taxes in the US. Now, even if he did, what that means is that we, poor dopes who pay taxes, were paying for his salary, and he paid tax on the salary that we paid for in another country.
Well, precisely, but in whose interests is he actually working? Because the end product of Sushi Rishi's things seems to be that it's his career that's the thing that matters.
Yeah,
he sorted out his wife's thing. He even finds drop 100k into Winchester College, probably as a charitable gesture, when he's cutting per student money in the state sector back to 2010.
Yeah,
who's interested?
Right, exactly right. The schools need 15 billion, and the government offered them 1.5. So there you go. Now shut up.
Well, 100,000 per student at Winchester College will get you some of the way there. But, I mean, it's really clear to me that he's operating a totally, well, probably like, as you suggested, all of them with regard to the European Union and the bank, charging, that he's operating something which is totally geared to enriching himself. So if it comes to the crunch when he has to go, he leaves the place in the same state as Osborne did after his bit of austerity. And we'll be going, who was that masked man anyway?
It's not a government, it's a smash and grab raid. It seems, with every single thing they do, that seems to underline itself to me more and more.
Well, the Lone Ranger isn't coming over any hill very soon, I don't think.
Most certainly is not. All right, thanks a lot, Phil. 0345 6060 973. There you are, Arjun. Could you understand a word that bloke was saying? Talking very, very fast. Devlin tweets, I'm sorry for any upsetting images that this may conjure before bed, but Eric Pickles once claimed £10,000 for biscuits on his expenses. That's almost certainly not true. I mean, I'm not suggesting that Eric Pickles hasn't eaten £10,000 worth of biscuits. I just doubt that he actually... No, wait a minute. Is it actually true?
Yeah, it's in the Independent.
Oh, my God.
£10,000. His department spent £10,000 on biscuits, but he defended it.
No, so he didn't personally eat them, or do we know that?
Well, I think he had a couple of jammy dodgers.
Yeah, no doubt. From the Independent, the Conservative MP Eric Pickles. How weird that he should be named after a food item. The Conservative MP Eric Pickles has launched a staunch defence of his government department after it was claimed he spent an extra £10,000 in one year on biscuits. That was from 2013. Well, he does look like a sort of fellow who likes a biscuit. Or 10,000.
Shut up.
I can't. 0345 6060 973. Steve says there's an easy way to remember the key Tories in the news these days. Dominic Cummings equals Dom. Nadine Dorris equals Dim. Dominic Raab equals Dim Dom. And Akshata Murty equals Non-Dom. Good one, Steve. So that's Dom, Dim, Dim Dom and Non-Dom. Keep that in mind. Let's have, let me see, one moment please. Is this mouse noisy enough? A little bit noisy, yeah. Chislehurst. Hello, Ross.
Yo, Nick. Yeah, it's pretty clear that it seems obvious that Bojo has conspired to get Rishi out while he's in Kiev saving the day.
You think?
It seems like payback. Yeah, I think it's to put him in the House of Lords with Gavin Williamson. And it seems like just at this point, the Conservative Party is just there to put ministers into the House of Lords.
Ministers, donors, mates, friends, various incompetents. Yeah, the entire House should be closed down. Every single one of them should be fired, and we start again with elected representatives.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I don't know, though. Maybe we should just let the House of Lords run things, let the Americans get as many people as they can in there. I mean, I'm partial to that idea, given my accent. Right. But at the same time, maybe it's not so great. I don't know. I think. Am I talking slowly enough for Arjun?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, a little bit too slowly for me, but just right for him. Yeah, he's listening to you at 1.5 times normal speed.
Yeah, Nick. I don't know. What is this? So what does this even mean with this with Rishi's wife? I don't understand.
Well, which bit are you confused about?
Well, the whole thing. What is it? What's the problem? I don't understand. She lives in India and she's paying taxes in the UK, right?
Yeah, almost completely the opposite of everything that you just said. But please try and pay attention going forward, Ross, as they say in meetings. We're going to run it up the flag going forwards. I don't go to many meetings. That's probably not what they say, but it's more or less there or thereabouts. The outcry, Ross, over Sunak's lack of transparency about his family's financial affairs ain't going anywhere anytime soon without some major distraction. So I would expect we'll be invading France within the week, unless we peasants stop questioning the regime. Because while Fisher's wife says that she will pay all the tax that is legally due in every jurisdiction in which they are applicable, she will apparently retain her non-dom status. So I read in one of the snooze papers today, which could in future allow her family to legally avoid an inheritance tax bill of more than £275 million.
What?
£275 million. And by the way in which the statement is put isn't going to win her any fans, because she put out a statement. In her statement, Fisher's wife said she did not want her non-dom status to be a distraction for her husband. Quotes, "For this reason, I will no longer be claiming the remittance basis for tax. This means I will now pay UK tax on an arising basis on all my worldwide income, including dividends and capital gains, wherever in the world that income arises. I do this because I want to, not because the rules require me to." Well, guess what? This will amaze you, Mrs. Fishy. Ordinary people who didn't get born to billionaires have the tax taken from their pay before they get it. Yeah, I know. Crazy, eh? There is no decision to make. There is no choice. It's just removed from our pay before we get any of it. That's how poor people get their children educated. Tax. And how poor people get their healthcare provided. And how we all, even billionaires, benefit from streetlights and the police keeping order and the fire service putting out the fires and the roads being built and repaired. And it keeps the meagre social security safety net for when disaster strikes in place. Everything that the little people pay taxes for, that makes the country work and the world go round. But please, tell us again about how generous you're being because you want to, not because the rules require you to. Have I taken the break yet?
No.
Really?
Oh, I don't know.
Aren't you in charge? How would I find out? I thought I had. I've been yakking away for quite a while if I haven't. Spot block Phil 150, and then Clive Ball. So, no, that's the after the news thing. And then Clive's at 45. So I have done it. See? Not completely stupid. That's right, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, that's about as much of an apology as I'll get.
I am very sorry that I screwed up. Totally screwed. I mean, I am so sorry. You just don't know how sorry I am. I'm sorry.
He's sorry. 0345 6060 973. Mark texts them. Maybe the reason the cops closed off all of London is because they're holding their annual skateboarding championships on Westminster Bridge. Well, they're certainly doing something on Westminster Bridge. I've got no idea what it is, but it'll close the entire thing. And every other road that leads to it and away from it, and every single road within about a mile's radius. I don't know whether people are still stuck in that traffic jam. The traffic jam that I was stuck in, it was covering pretty much the whole of London earlier on. It took forever, to the point that I really did think I'm just going to have to dump my car. I'll park it on the pavement, and maybe it'll still be there when I get back. But I didn't, because I'm a good boy, I am. Let's have Belsize Park. Faisal.
Nick.
Yes, sir.
Last time I spoke to you, you laughed at me when I mentioned there's going to be rain in one month's worth of rain in one day. And then a few weeks later, you were sounding shocked. But anyway, that's why I didn't call you so since then. But the reason why I'm calling is because you keep asking, why do the rich people not want to pay any tax? Well, it's really simple. The reason why they don't pay any tax is because they don't want to pay tax, because they can, but they don't want to, but it's because they earn their income not from working like you and me and the rest of the UK citizens. They earn their income from the appreciation of their assets. Exactly.
Assets, yeah.
And I'll give you an example.
That's why capital gains is taxed much, much lower than income. It's because that's how the rich make their money.
Exactly, and that's why the House of Lords exists. The House of Lords exists to stop people like you and me voting the wrong way, and then the government decides to change the laws to tax the rich, then the House of Lords will say no.
Yeah, but this is yes, Faisal, but this is how they're doing it. This is not why they're doing it. What I can't quite understand is, I mean, if you've got £1 billion in the bank, that is more money than you could ever spend, like reasonably, and unless you go out on a yacht buying frenzy. So why, the more money you have, does it seem that almost all of your time is taken up by trying not to pay any tax? You could easily pay tax. You wouldn't notice the amount of tax that you would pay on your income or your the appreciation of your assets if you've got £1 billion in the bank. But it seems to me the only thing that they obsess about is keeping absolutely all of it. I don't get it.
Also, you can imagine from their perspective, you know, they're sending their kids to private schools, they're going to private medical services.
Yeah.
As far as they're concerned, the poor people need to pay for themselves.
Right.
And then they can pay for themselves. But it's all gone wrong nowadays.
I sort of understand that. I mean, I can get that being, you know, just the incredibly selfish part about not wanting to give any money to those more unfortunate than you. I get that. You know, that's the sort of nasty side of human human beings. But what I really cannot quite fathom is why they are so determined to keep every single penny of what they've got. Because, I mean, there is that old phrase, you know, money doesn't bring you happiness. Well, they don't seem to be very happy, do they? And they seem to be so determined. It's the most important thing to them to keep the thing that's not making them very happy. I mean, look at Roman Abramovich, for instance. How many times have you seen him smile, let alone laugh? I mean, he looks like the most miserable person on earth. He's also one of the richest.
It's the power. The money brings the power. Because if you have money, you can, you know, lobby ministers in Parliament to do your bidding for you.
You can do anything you want.
You can meet the Prince Charles. You can get what do they call it? The lordship. You can become a lord. If you pay enough money, it's power. It's power. The more money they have, the more power they have over the little people.
Yeah, but after you got but after you've got £100 million, for instance, I mean that's a decent chunk, isn't it? Then why keep obsessing about more and more and more and more and more? Because you can't spend £100 million, not reasonably. I mean, how many houses do you need? How many planes do you need at your disposal? How many boats? I mean, you got 100 million, just relax, enjoy it. But they don't. They just seem obsessed with getting more and keeping everything that they get. Maybe they're just... Maybe the reason I don't understand it is because I'm not a billionaire. I'll let you know when I am. If I was, I've got to go, but thanks, mate. 0345 6060 973. Mike texts, the fact a dentist won the National is just more evidence that they are continuing to take us all for a ride. I'm fed up with them ripping us off. Yeah, that whole dentistry thing, that does seem like a bit of a racket, don't it? Rob, because, you know, what you're going to do when a dentist tells you need, you need this and you need that, you need this filled and that, got to get taken out and I've got to put a cap on that, and what are you going to say? No, I don't think so. You just say, yeah, okay then. Rob texts, it's not about the tax that has or has not been paid, it's about the commitment to this country. If Fishy and his wife regarded themselves as citizens of other countries, how much do they care about the UK? And Kenny says, you were lucky being stuck in traffic. They were stuck to the road. Oh, you're talking about the Extinction Rebellion people. Well, they didn't glue themselves to the road yesterday, did they? I really am still stunned. This is me being stunned at the police action last night. Well, this night, you know, earlier on. I have never seen London's roads so clogged in all my life. It was like they were making it impossible for anybody to get anywhere. Either it was absolute, total and utter incompetence because there weren't that many people out. I mean, the crowds weren't such that you needed to close off roads. They just wasn't the case. So the only thing I can come up with, and I know I've said this already, is that the authorities were trying to make the public really annoyed with the Extinction Rebellion people. That's the only thing I can come up with. Either that or it's just massive incompetence. Select.
This is absolute tosh.
Thanks, Nige. You're the best. 0345 6060 973. Oh, by the way, did you see that picture that was in the papers? Talk about the axis of evil. Good grief. Mike, no, I've read that one. Have I read the one from Rob? Yes. Well, at least in my mind. I don't know whether I've said it out loud. Kenny says, oh, no, I've read that one too. Wow, I am doing very well. Way ahead of schedule. Isle of Wight. Hello, Billy.
Hello, Nick. How are you doing?
I am great, mate.
Good. No, good. It's lovely to talk to you. You're my weekly dose of sanity, Nick. That's what you are.
Right. Well, that sounds alarming.
Do you suggest any medicaments, maybe?
Booze usually works for me.
Oh, that podcast is great. I've not listened to the latest one, but I try and listen to as many as I can. I would laugh. Carol McGiffin is great.
Oh, right,
Nick, I want to talk to...
Yes.
You know what? My mum's absolutely going to love that. If she's listening now, because I spoke to her about your town.
Billy, your phone is not working. Have you got?
Is it not working?
Well, I don't know. You're using some sort of clip-on mic or something.
No, I'm using a mobile phone. That's not good.
Okay, it's terrible. You got a landline?
I suppose I'll call back on the landline.
I don't know. We'll try and call you back on the landline or something. But that's absolutely painful. Oh my God! How long does it take for somebody to invent a phone that you can use as a phone? For crying out loud, why? Why does it take so long? I mean, how long have we had mobile phones? Absolutely blooming ages. Plenty enough time for them to figure out a way of making it usable as a phone. I mean, they can do everything else. They can locate Neptune in the sky. Better than that, they can locate Neptune even if it's underneath the Earth from where you're standing. Isn't that incredible? You can point your phone in the sky, and if Neptune's not up there, you just keep waving it around, and it might be right underneath where you're standing, through the planet and out the other side, for millions of miles, and your phone can tell you where it is. Or at least I assume that it's telling you where it is. I mean, I'm not checking that it's right, but I'm just guessing that it is. You can point it at a plane in the sky, and it can tell you where that plane has come from and where it's going to. Amazing. Can it be used as a phone?
No.
Not really. Not yet. They're working on it. But, you know, if you only spend £1,200 on a phone, you shouldn't really expect it to work as a phone. Chessington, hello, Bill.
Good evening, Nick.
Bill.
You're on fire today, mate.
Thanks.
You are, mate. Anyway, the point is, I was listening to what you were saying, and then the old memory started to work. And I remember Cameron saying, remember his old saying, oh, we're all in it together.
Yeah. He was a funny chap, wasn't he?
I think this is nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had his day as well, didn't he? So there you go.
We're still not missing you, Dave, but we know where to find you if we do. You'll be in the shed where they keep the tools.
Exactly, mate. So everything you're saying I agree with.
Everything?
Why not? Because you ain't been wrong yet, have you?
Well, that's a good point there, Bill.
There you go.
You must pay more attention in future, but thanks for the unsolicited testimonial. Cheers, Bill. 0345 6060 973. Could we not get that bloke on a proper line?
Don't have a landline.
Oh, he doesn't have a landline. Yeah, that's the thing, is I don't have a landline either. Well, I actually do, but I don't know what the number is. I mean, the landline just comes with your broadband, right? But I've never used it, not once. I have got absolutely no idea what the number is. It's not even, I didn't even have a phone connected to it. But the thing is, we've ditched them too quickly because mobile phones are rubbish as phones. Landlines, on the other hand, are perfect. I could get a landline call from somebody in Australia. I could get, well, I was going to say a landline call from somebody in the International Space Station, but that's very unlikely. That almost certainly could not possibly be true that they have a landline connected to the International Space Station. But the furthest away you can go is Australia, right? Or New Zealand, somewhere like that. And I could get a landline call from somebody in that place, and it would sound like they're actually talking to me in the studio. It would be perfect. But to take a mobile call from somebody who's outside this building, I wouldn't be able to hear a single word they say. So we've ditched the landline too quickly, people. That, and also your brain gets irradiated when you're talking on a phone. Mo says, so the Labour and Liberals have admitted that they can never win on merit, only by cheating and rigging the votes. No, Mo. The Conservative Party appear to me, anyway, to be cheating and rigging the votes by pretending that they're fixing this ID problem, which is a problem that does not exist. They're they're desperately trying to bring in photo ID, which is what the Republicans do in America, in order to suppress the voters who might not vote Republican, and ditto here. And if there's always going to be just one major right-wing party and a rainbow coalition of left-wing parties, then the left-wing will always lose. The majority of the people in this country do not vote Tory, and yet time after time after time they have to suffer through another Conservative government because the left-wing vote is split. So it makes complete sense to do each other a favour. And why shouldn't this country be run by a coalition? Most of the other countries in Europe, which are full of happier people than we are run by coalitions. In fact, it's hard to think of a country that you could pinpoint on a map that is not run by a coalition. I mean, Russia isn't run by a coalition. How's that doing?
Oh, fabulous.
Exactly. Highgate. Hello, Claire.
Yeah?
Claire.
Oh, hello, Nick. Hi. Hello, Nick. I'm ringing up again to mark your homework. The phones,
yes.
The mobile phones. Mm-hmm. It's not the phones, Nick. It's the masts. It's all the phone masts which break, and then the companies don't fix them, and some of them are shared between various networks, so they've got to work out who does what. So it's always the masts. The phones are fine.
Really?
Yeah. And also if you go into places like the city, and you use Google Maps to walk your way from the tube to somewhere, and then you're sent up completely the wrong street, which happened to me.
Yes.
That's because the buildings, the very, very tall buildings up in the city, are obscuring the signal from the masts, and it gets all confused, and Google Maps goes mad.
Yes, that's right. Well, now, is it the masts that you're running the map off, or isn't it satellites?
Well, the satellites interact with the masts, and your phone interacts with the... Oh, God, that's asked me a question. I don't know. Well, it's the masts. It's the phone masts, because that's what the whole system runs on. And the phone masts, I suppose, are picking up the satellite. The satellite signals.
I'm not sure about that. Well, the phone masts are picking up the satellite signals. You're not picking up the satellite signals on your phone. Is that right?
I don't... Now, you've got me there. I don't know. But all I know is it's the masts that are the key part. Because if you're in a place like where I am, sometimes if you use one network, it works fantastically. Yeah. And then if you try a different network, then it's awful. And you ring up the company and they say, one of the masts has gone down in that area. And we're fixing it, they say.
Sure they are, yeah.
Yeah, and then a year later you ring up again.
That is very, very annoying, though. That phenomenon that you just described about not being able to find your way around a city because of the tall buildings. It's absolutely infuriating because you'll walk in one direction, and your position on the map on your phone hasn't changed. And so you find yourself walking about half a mile, and then it finally catches up with you and tells you you've just been walking in the wrong direction.
Yeah, that's right. Or it never catches up with you, and you finally ask a human being, and they said, "Oh no, Moorgate's down that way."
That's right. Ask a human being. Correct. Like the good old days. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Thanks a lot, Claire. There you are. You see, I could hear absolutely every word that she just said.
Correct.
Every single word. And I don't think she was talking to me on a landline either. So it's just the luck of the draw. So, somebody's bound to know. So is your phone actually picking up a signal from the satellite when you're looking at maps? Because it seems unlikely that it would be, triangulating your position from phone masts? Does it do that? Maybe we'll never know. I bet the internet knows. Ricky tweets, can it get any better? The last Chancellor, Sav the Man... You're talking about Super Sajman Jav. Sajman Jav was a non-dom as well. Makes you wonder if anyone in government is paying taxes. Sajman Jav was a non-dom, was he? Oh, my God. Is anyone in government paying taxes? Does anyone in government actually know what taxes are? Other than something that the little people are concerned with. Motex, so the Labour and the Liberals have admitted that they can... No, I've read that. You were wrong first time, Mo, and you're wrong the second time as well. What would be wrong with the Rainbow Coalition? Rainbow Coalition of interested parties working for the benefit of the people, rather than a political party full of exactly the same people who seem to be working for, I don't know, whoever's got the most money, whoever donates the most. I mean, that is the suspicion, isn't it?
Come on, we're running late!
Jay texts, Fishy's missus is only paying tax so she can make Fishy look good to the public as he plots to take Bojo's residency. Rishi Fishy is never going to be the Prime Minister. It's a no from me.
No.
Yeah, I think it's a no from most. Not now, not ever, never. I don't know why he would be fighting so hard to do it. What's he doing that job for anyway? I mean, we know that he's not doing it to help people, is he? He's not the Chancellor of the Exchequer in order to make people's lives easier, because he's made all of our lives much, much more difficult. I mean, even compared to... you don't necessarily have to compare him to the last Chancellor or the one before that or the one before that. Just compare him to Chancellors in other countries in Europe, all of whom appear to be helping their citizens more than he is. So he's not doing the job to help people. So what's he doing it for? Curious, isn't it? I mean, he's not doing it for the money, unless he is. Why would he be so desperate to keep that job and to get another one that's so lowly paid? He could give his he could throw the money that he earns away and not even notice it. I mean, his wife got paid £11.6 million last year, and he didn't even know about it. Apparently. Perhaps I have that wrong, but I think that's how it worked out. So why is he doing that job? I mean, all the grief that you get from it. What's the upside for him? I wonder. Like, I'm curious, aren't you? Must be some upside. Must be huge. Maybe it's the pleasure of being unpleasant to withhold help from those who need it most. Maybe just gets a kick out of it. Janet texts, why do you drive in and out? The other Nick has a chauffeured car to take him in and out. What's the difference? What, between me and Nick Ferrari? Well, Janet, Nick Ferrari has his name on the outside of the building. He is a billboard name, whereas I'm also featuring. Phil tweets, is there anyone left in cabinet whose position is not untenable, whatever difference that makes? Yeah, I don't think so. A reasonable person might think no. Malvern. Judy.
Nick.
Hey, what's the water like in Malvern, Judy?
Oh, disgusting. Don't try it.
Come off it. It must be lovely. The water out your tap must be nice, no?
Oh, no, the water from my tap is fine.
Yeah, that's
actually.
what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, it's not bad, except when it floods, then it's iffy.
Yeah, don't drink the flood water.
But you see, that's the useful thing. The only useful thing about a landline phone, which is why I keep one, although I never answer it, is that in a flood situation, when the electricity goes off, the landline still works.
Still works, right.
I mean, obviously, nobody will come because you're flooded, and they'll just say, I'm sorry, but we can't get there. But, it's the thought, isn't it?
Yeah, you could always just dial up Tim, just to hear another human being's voice.
Does that still work?
I have no idea.
It costs £1 a minute.
Yeah, anybody under the age of 60 will be going, Tim who?
Yes. So, is that something to do with Wimbledon? Yeah. Come on, Tim.
Come on, Timmy. Yeah.
Come on. Oh, bless. I speak to people, sometimes in Africa, as I'm wont to do, and I have a video call with them, and they're driving a car, and they say, I won't be a minute, Judy, I'm still just driving my car in Kenya.
While they're on a video call
on their
with you.
mobile phone.
Blimey.
I mean, you see, it is actually because, we started too early. As a result, we've got all these copper wires everywhere.
You know what? Yeah, you never want to be first in any sort of revolution because every other country will learn from your mistakes and then step nimbly over you and run past.
You see, you've nailed it. There you go again. See, you are on form tonight, I must say.
That's why when we had the Industrial Revolution, we made all the mistakes first off. We invented all the stuff and made all the mistakes. And then the rest of the world was just pondering and looking at us, falling on our face a lot, and then took all of our ideas and then sped past us.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Although, actually, there is just one way to all your millions of listeners. Probably in this country, I know there's hundreds of them outside this country, but if you were to get, and I'm not going to say the name, but there are 2 mobile phone services that will link your phone with the Wi-Fi. So in the actual fact, you're getting Wi-Fi calling. Because that's why now I'm able to speak to you. Well, were I to go just outside the door and to my car, there would be nothing.
Are you telling me that the instrument that you are addressing me on at this moment is not a landline?
No, it's not a landline.
Wow.
It's a Wi-Fi assisted mobile phone. You'll have to look it up.
I
to find
certainly
out which ones do it. I
will
know you
do
won't do it.
nothing
because
of the sort.
Obviously, I knew you'd say that, but I just love hearing you say it.
Judy, I managed to hear every single word that you just said. Can you imagine if this show was Wi-Fi assisted? How fantastic it would be then. Then we'd really be getting somewhere.
Yeah, but then we'd be able to hear everybody, and would you really want that?
No, not really.
No, there you go then.
Not the standard,
Cheerio,
of course.
darling.
Not the standard, of course, that I get on this show. No, not every word, no. Thanks a lot, Judy. And text, go on, Boris, show us you've really got guts. Go and visit that chinless monster in Moscow. Charm him, I dare you. There you are, you see, Bodge, you've been dared by Annie.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Go on, do it. Phil tweets, is there anyone... Oh, no, I've read that. I read the one from Janet. Why do you drive in and out? The other Nick has got a chauffeur car to take him and out. What's the difference? He's a marquee name, Janet. He's a dentist on a horse. I'm an also-ran. A dentist on a horse. Dave tweets, it's a combination of satellites locating you and the masts supplying the data to show you the map. Tall buildings block the satellite part, not the data part. So it's a combination of satellites locating me and the masts supplying the data to show you the map. Well, that just sounds too complicated, Dave. Are you sure that those people know what they're doing? Jason says, I want a kitten. A kitten. Where do you recommend I go? I don't know. There must be a 24-hour Cats R Us near you, Jason. Hassad tweets, Fishy has a green card. Alexander Boris Defeffel Johnson has a US citizenship, being born in New York. Immigrants are taking over our jobs. That's apparently what people voted for. It's what I heard. Laura texts, correction, not typing, scrolling. Scrolling is our favourite pastime. You can call it anything you like, Laura. You're bashing away at a keyboard. It's typing. I maintain that you would have got some pretty bizarre looks if 20 years ago you had predicted that the kids' number one favourite thing to do in the future would be typing. But you just can't get them off their phones. Try taking a kid's phone away and their pet away and see which one they whine about the most. Shocking, isn't it? Something bad has happened to the human race. I think that the entire human race has taken a wrong turn somewhere. And I think, as a person that messaged me some while ago pointed out quite correctly, it's all David Bowie's fault.
Rock and roll!
Thanks a lot, David Bowie. You couldn't have just hung on for another decade or so. See what you've done? The entire world flipped upside down when David Bowie died. Kate texts, would Bojo actually recognise a chicken that hasn't been deep fried? Well, that's just offensive. But a good point, Kate. And Pete tweets, what do you think of the new Pink Floyd single? Well, I've heard it 1 and a bit times. And I have two thoughts. First, I thought it was pretty good. Second, I thought Dave Gilmour's guitar is too high in the mix. It's just like twice as loud as anything else in that song, unnecessarily so. Just bury it a bit more in the mix. I mean, I love your work, Dave Gilmour, but you don't have to stand out quite that much. Not necessary. There you are, Pete. I bet that's a more comprehensive answer than you were expecting. Mandy texts, can't we have a revolution, Nick? Well, Mandy, you say you want a revolution, but, you know, everybody sing. How many more of these I've got? I might, whisper it softly, I might just be able to read all of them before I go. Wow. Then I'll have really got somewhere. Lawrence says, say what you will about the Conservatives, but they are the best friends you could possibly ever have. Forget bath bombs as birthday gifts. Get £350,000 instead. That seems like a number that's familiar, but why is it familiar? Why is that number familiar?
It was on the side of the bus.
Oh. Yeah, I heard that that 350 million that we were promised on the side of the bus, I heard that the Conservatives have already given that to the NHS. Liar! Yeah, I heard that over and over again. Like a memo went round, and they all had to come out and say the same untruth over and over again. We've got that money, liar! They said. Have they no shame?
No.
No, I think it's a requirement for the job. Gary texts, Sunak's green card makes his meeting with the US healthcare providers in December last year even more sinister. Some might consider it unpatriotic and a potentially hostile act against the country and the people that he represents / serves. Nick tweets, now that Sunak is out of the way, Sajman Jav is going back to the role that Boris gave when the Vote Leave government was formed before Sajman left the role overcoming... Oh, God. Are you confused yet? You will be. New Chancellor by Monday to protect their wealth along with the new money problems for the US. Almost nothing about that tweet made sense, Nick, but I'm certainly glad that you shared it with us. Graham tweets, I'm not entirely happy with this government. Do you think I could get my money back? It's no, I think. Is it a no?
Yes.
It's a no. Gary says, I just looked up Eric Pickles and he looks like my thumb too. And Keith says, what's your favourite tongue twister? Well, unfortunately, Keith, I seem to be dying, but just in time to hand over to an expert in broadcasting whose name is Clyde Paul.